It looks like we are live. So I would just like to say welcome to our little Changemaker Q&A. I'm Caden. I'm going to be the moderator today. And today's topic, continuing from our debate, has quite literally shaken the world. We've brought in some of the most influential changemakers from the state to discuss this issue with us. And also with us here today is my co-moderator, Mila, who will be moderating the chat and taking questions. And Suhan is also with us, and he is running tech, running the stream, all that cool behind the scenes jazz. So thanks, guys. And before we start, I'd like to let our founder, Nandini, say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nandini. Nice to meet you, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming out today and joining us for this event. Thank you to our changemakers, Zainab, Tyler, Victoria, for being with us here today, for helping us. Today is all about getting more educated and learning more about the issue that we're seeing in the community and what is our part, like what part do we play in this fight. Police brutality has been an issue for so long that we don't even realize that it's ingrained itself into our community so much that it's become almost like close to impossible for us to eradicate the systemic problems of racism and stuff that we're seeing, but doesn't mean that we're too late. It's better late than never, and it's time for us to take a stance, take the steps towards reaching solvency for this issue. So thank you to everyone for being here today and helping us, joining us in this cause.
Absolutely, thank you. And without further ado, we're going to get right into it with our changemakers. First of all, we have Tyler from the Southern Coalition for Justice. Then we've got Victoria from the Wake County Black Student Coalition. And then we have Zainab from the Youth Americans Protest. So I'm just going to go ahead with you, Tyler. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your organization and what you guys do?
Yes, like you said, Tyler Wittenberg, the Chief Counsel for Justice Systems Reform at Southern Coalition for Social Justice. We are our specific program practices a form of movement lawyering, where our main goal is to support individuals like Victoria, actually, and then other youth and other grassroots organizations who are working to combat the school to prison pipeline, remove police from schools. We also do work on the back end around re-entry and expungements. And really our goal is to uplift and to increase the capacity of grassroots organizations fighting for change. And we do that through legal and policy advocacy. We do that through communication support, and we do it through strategy development. And I just want to say thank you for having me here, and I'm excited to have the conversation.
All right, thank you, Tyler. And now we're just going to hear from Miss Victoria.
Yeah, so I'm really glad to be here. I'm Victoria Smith. I'm the founder and the president of the Wake County Black Student Coalition. And so our group, essentially, we wanted to provide a safe place where not only can Black students come together, but like any student from any background, creed, sexual orientation, whatever you identify with, they can come and talk about Black issues specifically, because right now, in the current time, Black issues are being pushed under the rug. And so a lot of times students, we're told that our voices don't matter, or, we don't know what we're talking about, or, we're ignorant to what's going on because we're not, adults or of the legal age or whatever it may be. And that's not true at all. If we can take these AP classes, we can be pushed in these rigorous courses, we can also understand the things going on around our world and how we can change them. So I'm very, very excited to be here, excited to be kind of a voice for like the students. Yeah.
All right, we're excited to have you. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Zainab, you have the floor.
Hey guys, my name is Zainab Baloch, and thank you for having us. This is such a important and necessary and late conversation that we're all seeing and having right now. So a little bit about me. I ran for mayor last year in Raleigh, and I've always been part of just community service in a lot of different groups in a lot of different areas. And so I co-founded YAP, and I'm currently the president of YAP, which stands for Young Americans Protest. And we're an organization that's really focusing on providing local avenues for young generations to bear witness to life in our communities and really pursue bold accountability through both voting, unapologetic and outspoken action, as well as innovation and creativity and technology. So what I've seen, we've been on the ground. We planned the initial protest in Raleigh. We're part of Raleigh Demands Justice. And one thing that we're seeing now is just it's really hard to organize and connect everyone within one platform. So before everything happened, we were already in the midst of developing a platform for young people specifically to have a voice in their local community. So we're doing that through an app and technology and really looking to making a innovative social media network for organizers, activists, anyone who wants to bear witness in their communities to what's going on. Yeah, excited about that and excited to have this conversation.
Like I said, we're excited too. So I think we're just gonna jump right into the question. Tyler, you said something really interesting in your intro. You talked about the school to prison pipeline. Can you just inform us, educate us a little bit more about that?
The school to prison pipeline, which really started to take root around the implementation of zero tolerance policies, is really a network of policies and practices that make it so that young individuals, students, and primarily students of color are often even more likely to be introduced to the justice system by attending school than not attending school and simply being in their community. So you have an underinvestment in education. You have a lack of resources within schools. You have an overcrowding in schools. And most importantly, you have a response to student behavior that is punitive in nature and even criminalizing for age-appropriate behavior. So it goes beyond suspension and expulsions. And it really is about the context and the environment we're creating for youth. And for many youth of color in particular, they are pushed out of school, introduced to the justice system, sent out of the justice system back into the school, and then we see this cycle all over and over again. And one big part of this is about the funding, because one school shooting pops up and they'll find tens of millions of dollars to criminalize and place more police in schools. But when we talk about universal pre-K, we talk about even paying and resourcing teachers and hiring the right teachers, even holding teachers accountable. All these things lag behind, but they always find the funds to criminalize Black and brown students and funnel them into what we consider to be the school to prison pipeline. So it's not just simply one or two policies, it is really a web that catches students and puts them in the grasp of the justice system for what we consider to be age appropriate adolescent behavior.
Thank you. And so we talked about a lot of that in our original debate, and we talked about the impact of school resource officers, and anyone can hop in if they'd like to. But can you explain to us, you talked about, I assume that you would agree that the school resource officers play a huge part in the school to prison pipeline. Can anyone talk about the impact of those and what actions we could take to hopefully solve some of the issues that are presented there?
Yeah, I would love to speak on that. Coming from my firsthand experience, being a rising senior in high school and, being a black student, like I have had countless encounters with my SR officers and within schools who have many a times racially profiled me in comparison to other students, whether it's me walking in school late because I went out to go get lunch with my friends and I came back late and I'm getting stopped in the hallway and asked, "Where's your pass?" But my white peers can continue walking like it's not a big deal, or there'll be certain times when I'll see my friends getting stopped and asked, all because they smell like weed. They get stopped and asked and come to the principal's office because they assume they have weed on them because they're black, and because they smell like weed, knowing that they don't smoke weed. Their parents would beat their tails that they ever even thought about that. So it's like, you know, these small little microaggressions that continue to happen. We're going to say that we have officers in schools to protect and serve, but you're not protecting and serving all, and then you're not doing your job. So we think that what can I, if I, when it comes to people want to make the argument of school shootings and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, it's been a known fact that not a single SRO officer has ever, since the Columbine shooting happened, not a single SRO officer has ever stopped a single school shooting. Like, you're not doing your job to begin with. So when it comes to, you know, talking about guns and all this kind of like crazy stuff, they're not even protecting us in that aspect. So then we talk about, you know, let's, instead of having some guy who's had a 40-hour training to come work in schools and stuff, let's take him out and get psychologists and school nurses, because the fact is my high school has over 2,500 students and we share a nurse with another school. That makes no sense. That's over 5,000 students for one person. And then even looking at our school psychologist, we share her with another school. That makes no sense. So it's like, why are we funding these people who carry on guns, carry on these weapons, and antagonize Black students and students of color, when instead we could be putting that money and funding into things that will actually help us? So yeah, we definitely don't need SROs.
All right. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was gonna add to that just first off, Victoria made every single point that we need to hear and more than enough. But the presence of police in schools is really like kind of broader on the dehumanization of, you know, children of color, which is that it suggests that, you know, they always need to be surveilled. Or that, that this just makes people as well as those individuals perceive themselves to be criminals. So like, we really need to think about also the impact this is having on a child's identity, on their emotions, on their mental health. Unions actually show like millions of students, specifically students of color, attend schools that have police officers, but no nurse or school psychologist. So like the fact that like we can put money into policing but not into mental health is a problem in itself, which is around the entire country in every single aspect. But some things that we could do, which actually have been proven within research and evidence, are like restorative justice programs and having more mental health counselors and other support staff. And really just innovation. People have ideas. There's more than enough stuff that we can actually go out and figure out what to do if we want to. So, and we can also contact and pressure our school board every single day, just like Victoria's group is doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that leads very well into my next question, actually. So for the people watching, and for you guys, obviously, we do need to step up and take action. For this issue particularly, how are we going to be able to do that? Are we talking to the state? Are we talking to the school board, to the county? Who is in charge of this issue, and who can we talk to get this issue solved?
I think I can speak to that. First and foremost, school boards have the power to add funding to policing. They have the power to fund those mental health supports or those alternatives that both Victoria and Zainab are mentioning. They approve budgets, which are supposed to be moral documents, but end up reflecting more the morality of criminality. So we first need to look at the school board. The states can create avenues that make it easier for school boards to fund alternatives and remove police from schools, but at the end of the day, both policing and education tend to be more locally based issues. And when you have a school district like Wake County, where Black students represent 22% of the school population, but 73% of students referred to law enforcement and pushed into the system, it behooves. And at the same time, you have groups like Victoria's group, the Wake County Black Student Coalition, hitting the streets, and other groups hitting the streets on a regular basis, letting you know how they feel and what their demands are. then it just behooves you to pay attention and to use the power you have to make a difference. So I want to first and foremost, the primary point that we need to look at when it comes to who can help make these decisions happen are the school board. And to Zainab's point, I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce the name. The primary place we should be looking for those alternatives are the students.
I think one thing to also add to that is that it always sucks because, one thing I will say is that kind of growing up, being told, like I said before, because I'm a minor and because I'm 17, because I'm a student, it's like, nothing, this is adult business. Don't worry about it. Even though this affects me on a daily basis because I'm the one who has to walk into that school building every single day. I'm being told, don't worry about it, or the fact that even the simple fact that people aren't listening to us, like Mr. Tyler was saying, I've literally been out ever since March 30th from that first initial protest with Zainab. I have been out every single day protesting. It is exhausting. It is draining. My team and I are working our butts off night and day. I'm either staying up late because I'm working on trying to figure out another protest, our next move, doing research, figuring out the best thing to keep going, or two, I'm horrified for my life and I can't go to bed because I'm worried about being shot. And I know that all of these small little things that deal with racism, all go back to the fact of there's a right and there's a wrong. And I feel by, the Board of Education not listening to us, these school boards not listening to us, they're choosing the wrong side of history. And that's going to go to show when eventually, I don't know the best way to say this, but it's a lot of teenagers are aware of the power that we have and what we can do as a unit. And so a lot of teenagers are starting to come together. And even talking about y'all's group, learning that, we are young, but we are powerful. We are insanely powerful if we come together and can form unity. And so it hurts when, we don't have the Board of Education listening to us or any of these adults who have, the power to make these quick changes so that I don't have to go out on the street and risk my life in the middle of a pandemic, But even if they're not going to listen, we're going to keep fighting and we're going to keep pushing until they do listen, until they have no choice but to listen to us. So yeah.
Exactly. And to add on to that, and honestly, these are politicians. And as someone who knows most of these people, I feel they, right now you have that little bit of more political courage to maybe take forward. But what's necessary is like you guys are doing, constant contact, but also it's not just limited to the school board, right? It's a lot of the schools, most of them are in Raleigh. RPD is staffed at most of these schools. The city council could decide to pull their officers from, Wake County schools. They could decide to not use that funding provided for school resource officers and use it towards something else that it still works for. There are more than enough things that they could do to get this issue resolved, but it is also an election year. So your school board members are up for election. Your commissioners are up for election. You are also able to run for election. And those are the things that we just really need to look at our local politics. And I know for a fact, being in there, that if us young people, millennials, Gen Z start getting in there, and we're such a Raleigh's median age is 32 and a half. There's almost 100,000 college students. We have the power, hands down, to impact the election and elect whoever we want. So we definitely need to think about this strategically, because they're going to let you protest on the ground, because we are not usually have a voice. Young people traditionally don't vote, so they ignore us, and they can ignore us. But once we start adding that political side, the technology side, the innovative side that we know we have, then that's when I think real, true, very fast, radical change will happen.
All right, thank you. I totally agree. We have a question now, Mila.
Yep, awesome. That kind of goes to what you were just speaking about. The Weekly Web activist asked if school boards hold elected officials, how can we convince the community to vote for board members that support abolishing SROs? So since you kind of mentioned that, is there specific ways that your organization is going about that?
Yeah, and so like at first, like we participated in the Wake County Sheriff's race last year and really got the momentum to push out the Republican sheriff and the sheriff that we had for I think almost like 10 years, and he was very racist and all types of things. So anyways, we helped with those elections, and an example of this would be today is actually Eid al-Adha. It's a Muslim holiday, and what we ended up doing is getting a group of people together and getting Eid al-Fitr, which is another holiday, approved as a day off for Wake County schools. What that process looked like was going to like 3 or 4 calendar specific meetings throughout the year, and then taking it to both social media with a petition as well as to the school board. And we made sure we had a speaker there at every single school board meeting until they voted on it. So that process pretty much works the same for really any issue that we need to do. It's going to those really technical and sometimes boring meetings, figuring out what's going on and figuring out the strategy to then go bombard the school board at every single meeting, which is difficult right now because of COVID. So that's where the innovation right now comes in, that we're really going to have to brainstorm on how you can make that same impact virtually, because it's so much easier for the politicians to ignore the virtual aspect because their donors are older people and they're not really paying attention to Instagram and Twitter. That's just the reality of it. So we got to follow the money, and we have to follow a lot of different things here. So it's going to take a lot of brainstorming on it as well.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the questions that we wanted to talk about, and you just brought it up a little bit, and you talked about it in your opening speech. You talked about connecting, and especially connecting is hard, but especially now because we're in the midst of the pandemic. So how do you think, that issue of connectivity and not being able to meet so easily in person with people is affecting this issue and other issues like that? And then how can we help to mitigate those effects?
I just no. Go ahead, Victoria. I wanted to go back. You got it.
I was just gonna say, like, honestly, I'm countering off of what adding on to what Zainab said about connecting. Like, I think it's so important. I mean, when we're looking back, I was talking to my brother about this today. Even talking about the Black Panthers and how revolutionary they were, and just like them leading and stuff, and seeing it's like they were close, but there's still always change that has to be made. You know what I'm saying? And so the fact that they worked their butts off and they were revolutionaries and stuff, but like we still have so far to go. It's like, well, okay, well, what do we have that they didn't have a few decades ago? Technology, and the use of everything is so quick and so speedy, and how things can, even talking about one of the biggest like kind of causes of everything going on right now is George Floyd's death. And right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, everyone's on their phones. His death, literally having his soul out, like sucked out of his body, was recorded. That's why it blew up, because it was recorded. We're all sitting at home. It's like we're right now. I've never gotten that much attention, because even in Raleigh, Othniel Dinkins, Keith Collins, 4 men that were freaking out. Wait, can y'all hear me or no?
It's a bit robotic. So I think.
Yep.
Talk one more time for me.
Try turning off your video. Sometimes that might help.
Yeah, I don't know. While she's figuring that out, Tyler, you had something to say, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's just I think so, to build off of that point, that the technology existing now allows us to connect in a broader way, allows us to document the things that are happening, allows us to share what's happening, and then allows us to come together and brainstorm and share ideas in a way that we couldn't do or we didn't do before because we assumed we had to get in the car and drive to a meeting. Now we can jump on calls like this and everyone can be connected in this way. So I do want to name you all, I want to name SLAC and this space as one of the examples of things we could do to have a dialogue, you know, bringing together people who are all working on the issue and starting to share that dialogue out with other folks. And even naming the fact that you all are creating a space to look toward a certain group and to help a certain group. Right now you have Wake County Black Student Coalition together who are, so they're bringing together a lot of students of color, and you all are bringing together a lot of students who want to help out as well. Everybody has a place, and the technology allows everybody to fit in and to help each other out within these spaces. And with that, I'll pass it back to Victoria. She's ready.
Y'all, I am so sorry. My Wi-Fi I swear my Wi-Fi's acting up, but I'm back. Yeah, is it good now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you are crystal clear now.
Okay, cool. Okay, so essentially I was like kind of a little bit about Keith Collins, Kyron Hinton, Akiel Dinkins, Sohail Masharad are 4 men that were literally murdered by Raleigh Police Department. 4 men in our hometown that were murdered by Raleigh Police Department. So the fact that, you know, their deaths weren't recorded. So they don't get all streets change them. Not saying that, you know, George or anybody else. Every law just saying, like,
Victoria, you're breaking up again. Would it be possible for you to switch to a like a hotspot from your phone? That might work a little bit better. I don't know. My internet's spotty too. Every once in a while. So I totally feel you. Let's see.
I'll add to this. I'm sorry. We were talking about COVID. Oh, I had a point when Victoria was talking and I totally forgot. Can you remind me of the question? That will help me remember.
The question was just kind of like we're connecting and how the pandemic is affecting these issues and how can we mitigate those effects.
Yeah, okay. The point you guys were bringing up about technology and how we have so many different resources just in this space as well as all around the county and the triangle. That's exactly what YAP is doing right now, is trying to bridge that gap with technology and on the ground action, because we don't have one platform where, like, we might post on Instagram or Facebook, but it doesn't tell you like what action you can take to go do something. So like imagine an app